Blazing precision, split-second coordination, and unimaginable pressure, Formula One pit stops are a symphony of teamwork under fire. But when things go wrong, they go spectacularly wrong. Flames erupt, cars spin wildly, and chaos unfolds in the blink of an eye. This is the true tragedy of Formula One's most shocking pit stop disasters. Story 1. Eddie Irvine, 1995. Let's take a trip to the legendary Circuit du Spa-Francorchamps on August 27, 1995, where the Belgian Grand Prix unfolded on its 44-lap journey to crown Michael Schumacher the victor. But while Schumacher's masterful driving was the highlight of the day, one unforgettable, heart-stopping incident etched itself into Formula One history. Lap 21, Eddie Irvine, driving for Jordan, peeled into the pits. His car had been holding its own, competing fiercely on one of the sport's most challenging circuits. You could almost feel the tension in the pit lane as his crew scrambled to execute a flawless stop. Refueling, tire changes, and split-second decisions. This was the lifeblood of the sport, but no one could have predicted what would happen next. As the fuel hose connected to Irvine's car, disaster struck. A jammed fuel valve caused gasoline to spray onto the searingly hot body of the vehicle. Within a blink of an eye, flames erupted, swallowing the car in a fiery inferno. It was 6 seconds of chaos. Fire spread rapidly, licking the edges of the cockpit and spilling dangerously close to the driver. The Jordan and Ligier pit crews worked together, their quick thinking and bravery preventing what could have been an unspeakable tragedy. Hoses hissed as foam and extinguishing agents blanketed the fire, reducing the inferno to a memory within moments. Miraculously, Eddie Irvine emerged unscathed, shaken but unharmed. As terrifying as Irvine's 6 seconds in the fire were, they pale in comparison to a pit stop horror show that unfolded a year earlier. A moment so dramatic that it's now immortalized in one of Formula One's most iconic photographs. Story 2. Jos Verstappen, 1994. This was the German Grand Prix on July 31, 1994, where Michael Schumacher, already a rising star, hoped to become the first German to win his home race. But instead of Schumacher, it was his teammate, Jos Verstappen, who stole the headlines for all the wrong reasons. On lap 13, Schumacher's first pit stop went smoothly, showcasing the precision expected of the Benetton team. 2 laps later, it was Verstappen's turn. The young driver approached the pit lane with confidence, expecting nothing more than a routine stop. The atmosphere in the Benetton garage was intense but focused. Mechanics moved like a well-oiled machine, ready to get their driver back on track in record time. As the car came to a halt, a flicker of fuel sprayed from the nozzle, unnoticed at first. It only took a second, one single spark, for the fuel to ignite into a towering fireball. Flames engulfed the car and surrounding pit crew in an instant. Inside the cockpit, Verstappen opened his visor for a breath of air, only to be swallowed by black smoke and searing heat. His hands frantically worked to remove the steering wheel and release his seatbelt. Seconds stretched into eternity as he fought to escape the burning cockpit. Meanwhile, chaos erupted in the pit lane. Mechanics darted away from the inferno, some with their uniforms ablaze. One crew member, Paul Seeby, was photographed running from the flames, his body enveloped in fire, a haunting image that would later become a symbol of the dangers of Formula One. Thanks to the team's swift actions, the fire was extinguished within moments. Verstappen escaped with minor burns, shaken but alive. The pit crew wasn't as lucky. 3 members sustained burns, though none were life-threatening. Despite the intensity of the moment, Verstappen returned to racing, but the image of the fireball haunted fans and mechanics alike. Story 3. Daniel Ricciardo, 2016. Let's jump to the glamorous streets of Monte Carlo, where on May 29, 2016, the prestigious Monaco Grand Prix played host to one of Formula One's most shocking moments. The tight corners, narrow streets, and picturesque backdrop of Monaco are a driver's dream, but also their greatest challenge. For Daniel Ricciardo, it was a weekend that started with promise and ended in heartbreak. Ricciardo had been unstoppable all weekend, setting a blistering lap time to claim his first ever pole position. As the Australian driver sat atop the starting grid, you could feel the electricity in the air. His performance was flawless. Lap after lap, he extended his lead, leaving rival Lewis Hamilton trailing behind in his Mercedes. The Red Bull crew stood ready in the pit lane, waiting to execute their part of the plan perfectly. But in Formula One, even the smallest mistake can cost everything. Around the halfway waypoint, Ricciardo received the call to pit for a fresh set of tires. It was a standard procedure, one he'd done countless times before, but as he entered the pit lane and pulled into his box, something went terribly wrong. The Red Bull garage erupted into chaos. The new tires weren't ready. Mechanics darted around, frantically retrieving the correct super softs while Ricciardo sat helplessly in the cockpit. He glanced into his mirrors, knowing every second counted. 12 seconds, they say, doesn't sound like much, but for Ricciardo, it was an eternity. Hamilton roared down the main straight, closing the gap. As Ricciardo finally rejoined the race, Hamilton swooped past at Sainte-Devote, stealing the lead and delivering a devastating blow to Ricciardo's hopes of victory. You could feel Ricciardo's frustration radiating through the screen as he fumed, "Those tires should be ready. This is a win I'll never get back." He crossed the finish line in second place, standing on the podium with his signature grin nowhere in sight. It was replaced by disbelief and heartbreak. Story 4, Lewis Hamilton, 2007. Let's head to October 7th, 2007, and the high-stakes drama of the Chinese Grand Prix at the Shanghai International Circuit. Lewis Hamilton, then a rookie sensation, was on the brink of achieving what no one had before, a world championship title in his debut Formula One season. But in Formula One, things can go wrong faster than you can blink. Hamilton entered the weekend with a comfortable lead in the championship. His McLaren team, confident but cautious, needed to manage tire wear carefully on the abrasive Shanghai track. As the laps ticked down, it became clear that Hamilton's rear tires were degrading at an alarming rate. The team decided to push him one lap longer on the worn rubber to maximize their strategy, believing it would give him the edge over Kimi Raikkonen in the Ferrari. But those tires were beyond their limit. The right rear was delaminating, exposing the canvas beneath. The tension was palpable as Hamilton approached the pit lane, one of the most crucial entries of his career. Hamilton rounded the final corner, his car sliding precariously on the shredded tires. As he approached the pit lane entry, disaster struck. The McLaren refused to respond, skidding wide and straight into the gravel trap. For a moment, the car teetered on the edge of escape, the rear wheels spinning in a desperate attempt to find traction, but the gravel was unforgiving, and Hamilton's car sank further into the trap. The marshals stood helplessly by as rules forbade them from assisting him. In the pit lane, McLaren mechanics stood frozen, their hands gripping their helmets in disbelief. Hamilton remained in the cockpit, trying to keep the engine running, but his hopes of clinching the title in Shanghai were now buried in the gravel. The silence on the radio said it all. The rookie phenom who had lit up the F1 world would not finish the race. This marked the first retirement of his Formula One career and dealt a severe blow to his championship aspirations. Story 5, Kazuki Nakajima, 2007. Our next story takes us to the thrilling finale of the 2001 Formula One season, the Brazilian Grand Prix at Interlagos, held on October 21st, 2007. Amidst the tension of a title-deciding race, one moment of inexperience overshadowed the weekend for rookie driver Kazuki Nakajima and his Williams team. For Nakajima, this was his debut race in Formula One, a dream moment for any young driver, but with dreams often come nerves, and the Brazilian Grand Prix, with its electric atmosphere and demanding track, is no easy introduction to the sport. The Japanese driver was eager to prove himself, pushing hard to make a strong impression. As the race unfolded, Nakajima approached the first ever Formula One pit stop. The Williams crew stood ready, anticipating a standard procedure, but what followed would be anything but ordinary. Nakajima entered the pit lane at full speed, his car hurtling toward the waiting crew. Whether it was nerves, miscalculation, or just inexperience, Nakajima missed his marks, slamming into 3 mechanics standing in position to service his car. The pit lane turned into a scene of chaos as mechanics scrambled out of the way, 2 of them tumbling to the ground under the force of the car. Gasps rippled through the crowd as everyone froze, unsure of the extent of the injuries. Nakajima, visibly shaken, completed his stop while medical personnel rushed to the scene. Miraculously, the injured crew members were able to walk away, though they were immediately taken to the hospital for further evaluation. Post-race, the team confirmed that the mechanics had escaped serious injury, bringing relief to everyone involved. Nakajima expressed deep regret, and his technical director, Sam Michael, echoed these sentiments, emphasizing the team's priority for their staff's well-being. This was 5 times pit stops at F1 went wrong.